Hello and welcome to the program. Today we're going to talk about an ex-Soviet state that has been trying to get closer to Europe for more than 20 years. Georgia went through what was called the Rose Revolution in 2003, a year before a similar pro-Western movement led the Orange Revolution in Ukraine. But while Ukraine has begun the long process of joining the European Union, the government in Georgia has decided to pause that process for several years, this despite Georgia finally being granted candidate status by the EU in December 2023. Well, that pause has plunged the country into crisis as Georgians take to the streets in protest. These demonstrations are supported by opposition parties who are adamant that the ruling party rigged the parliamentary election in October, something that Georgian Dream rejects. Well, my guest today makes no bones about his pro-European views and credentials. Georgi Baramidze was for many years the state minister for Georgia's Euro-Atlantic integration, and he's also been a deputy prime minister of Georgia and a vice speaker of the parliament. He joins me from Tbilisi. Georgi Baramidze, thank you so much for being our guest on Talking Europe. You've been protesting every night. What has it been like? What have you seen? What have you experienced?
Hello, bonjour. Thank you for inviting me and have the opportunity to speak about such an acute issue for our nation, not only for me personally. As you know, 80%, according to the all opinion polls, 80% and more than that, our citizens support strongly EU and NATO integration. Therefore, all these days were very turbulent because ruling party that recently, on 26th of October, completely rigged the elections, declared that they are going to stop Georgia's European integration, the membership process, which is, by the way, against Georgia's constitution, Article 78, which says that every Georgian authority and institution must do its best and the utmost in order to achieve Georgia's EU and NATO membership. So they went against the constitution after rigging the elections, which was also recognized as a rigged elections by the European Parliament recently by the resolution. So therefore, Georgians are really very angry.
And what do you make of the police tactics and the Interior Ministry, how they've handled this? What have you seen?
They were very brutal. They've been brainwashed, many of them, and they said that we don't want to hold Georgia become a gay country, things like that. This is pure Russian propaganda versus to the reality that we want to be a part of the Europe. This is a historic dream on Georgian people. So, but Russia obviously doesn't want this, doesn't want Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine be free country, be democratic country, be part of the democratic club, civilized society. Because for the Putin, this is the problem, because Putin doesn't want to see, to let countries around Russia be successful, be democratic, be happy, be prosperous, because then the Russian people will demand Putin that we want same.
We'll get back to some of the more international questions which you've already alluded to, but just a quick question I have about the reports we're getting of the arrests of opposition figures or detention of opposition figures, such as the leader of the Coalition for Change, Nika Gvaramia. What have you heard about that, and also the reported raids on the offices of non-governmental organizations?
Yeah, they arrested Nika Gvaramia, they arrested other leaders, they raided the offices of non-governmental organizations, but also our offices, our youth organizations office, by the way, which is located right in front of police office. And the police broke all the minimal standards and all the laws how they have to enter the office, and they put some things. It was on camera inside of our office, and then they are now trying to build the case against us, our party, and other parties that we are staging coup d'état, violent coup d'état. So this is their, let's say, strategy how to approach Georgian citizens in order to crack down all these protests. So you ask about the police tactics. They are very brutal. They are chasing people even to the private homes, in the offices, in the pharmacies, and far away from the parliament building when everything happens. And they are beating them brutally, and with no absolutely consequences for those who are beating these people. And by the way, this is also very important. We have very serious suspicions that there are not only policemen, but also some the organized mob groups mobilized by the government, because all these policemen, if you see the pictures, they don't have identification numbers. They are absolutely in blacks, and they are covering their faces, and nobody knows who are they. And if they commit any crime or any violence, nobody can investigate this. And they of course, government doing this in purpose. They think nobody should be punished for that, but they will be punished.
Speaking of consequences for such actions, as you know, the three Baltic states have announced sanctions on a number of Georgian officials that they've identified as being responsible for this crackdown. But the EU as a whole has not followed with a similar action. What are you expecting from the EU as a bloc?
I'm absolutely confident that the sanctions from EU as well as from United States will come. That's the absolutely clear indication from the State Secretary of the United States, and the statements of the European Parliament I already mentioned, which called the Commission to put sanction on oligarch Bidzina Ivanishvili and who surrounds him, and committing these constitutional crimes, and letting their mobs to crack down on people.
We've also heard the news that Ukraine has announced sanctions, not just on the Georgian Prime Minister, but also on the billionaire that you just mentioned, Bidzina Ivanishvili. Do you think that makes a difference in practical terms?
It will make difference, absolutely, because they are lying to their subordinates that nothing will happen, just Europeans will, make a noise, and then you can go unpunished and everything will be okay. You can still go with your families to Milan and Paris for shopping, and your kids still can study abroad, in the United States, in European countries, and so nothing will happen. But this time, I'm absolutely confident that Bidzina Ivanishvili, who is the top leader of this pro-Russian criminal organization named Georgian Dream, and his subordinates, this time will be severely sanctioned and punished.
Of course, let's remind viewers, Mr. Baramidze, that the EU, even before these latest protests, the EU already froze some financial support for Georgia over the law on foreign influence, which was adopted earlier this year. Do you think the EU is right in its general policy towards Georgia, or is freezing financial support, is that just going to alienate people in Georgia who, as you mentioned, 80%, according to polls, want to be part of the West and part of Europe?
Very good question. So therefore, we should divide and separate this pro-Russian, anti-Western Georgian Dream Party led by oligarch Ivanishvili and his criminal group, which is violating the constitution, Georgian laws, and letting these mobs to crack down on people violently, and Georgian people, which is more than 80% supporting European integrations. There should be clear separation. From one hand, support to Georgian people, Georgia's aspirations, and recognition of Georgian people's desires, very strong desire to be part of this family, civilized and democratic European nations. And other hand, this criminal organization, Georgian Dream, they're trying to, steal our dreams, the dreams of the Georgian people.
Just one final point. The Prime Minister of Georgia, Mr. Baramidze, says that the goal of the demonstrators is to create another Maidan, in other words, regime change. Is that true, or is the goal actually simply to rerun the election of October?
We don't need any violence, but yes, our goal, our people's goal, to get rid of this criminal gang from the government. Therefore, we call for elections, free and fair elections, similar being reflected in the European Union's the Parliament resolution. And this is the demand of the people. Yes, we need free and fair elections, organized and monitored by the European Union, not the pocket Central Electoral Committee, and of course, that have a civilized, peaceful change of the government. As President Saakashvili in 2012 recognized the defeat and handed over peacefully the power to the Georgian Dream. So that's how it happens in normal European countries. That's how it happened in Georgia as well.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time on the program, Georgi Baramidze, former Minister for Euro-Atlantic Integration in Georgia. And of course, we'll be following all the news coming out of Georgia very closely in our news programs here on France 24. Do stay with us.